So he says, awake, arise, clothe yourself with power, O arm of the Lord. So this is a time of regeneration, like awake and arise, this resurrection imagery. Later on, we see how Zion awakes and arises in chapter 52, in the next chapter. But first, you have the awakening and arising of the Lord's servant. Awake and arise, clothe yourself with power, O arm of Jehovah. Bestir yourself, as in ancient times, as in generations of old. Like it was in the past, now it's going to be so again. It also hints at the idea that he had done things before that he's going to do again. Bestir yourself as in ancient times, as in generations of old. Was it not you who carved up Rahab, you who slew the dragon? Was it not you who dried up the sea? So, when we look back in the book of Exodus, what do we see? We see that the angel of God in the pillar of fire led the Exodus out of Egypt under Moses. And so it seems like Rahab being Egypt and the Pharaoh being called dragon in Isaiah here and also in the book of Ezekiel. And he also, of course, appears in the book of Revelation, the dragon opposing the work of the Lord. So here we see that this angel is going to be doing something very similar that he did in the past, as a premortal angel, we might say. And now he's going to be doing it in the flesh. As we read on in the next couple of verses, God empowers his arm to lead the new Exodus. Continued. And this, of course, is quoted again in 2 Nephi 8, 9 through 11 there also. And Ezekiel mentions the dragon in chapter 29, verse 3 as Egypt's Pharaoh. The waters of the mighty deep and made of ocean depths a way by which the redeemed might pass. That is the ancient Exodus out of Egypt through the Red Sea when the waters divided hither and thither. Let the ransomed of the Lord return. So now they're going to return again, this time out of Babylon, to Zion in the end time. So the ransomed and the redeemed, of course, are the elect of God that will be gathered, as other scriptures make clear. Let them come singing to Zion, their heads crowned with everlasting joy. Let them obtain joy and gladness, and sorrow and sighing flee away. All the things of the past, all the bad memories, the adversity, the opposition, the humiliations, the persecution, the captivity, all of that will be done away and forgotten by those who are delivered and ransomed. Then we go on to the bearing of the Lord's arm as an end-time event in 3 Nephi 16, 17 through 20, again referencing Isaiah 52, verses 8 through 10, about the Lord's arm, making bare his arm. Jesus says, then the words of the prophet Isaiah shall be fulfilled. Now we're talking about the words of Isaiah, and always, whenever they are fulfilled, it's an end-time scenario. Of course, the arm is revealed to all nations, which is a universal event, which did not happen in the time of Joseph Smith. All of Isaiah is an end-time event, which say, thy watchmen shall lift up the voice, with the voice together shall they sing, for they shall see eye to eye when the Lord shall bring again Zion, or restore Zion. Break forth into joy, sing together, ye waste places of Jerusalem, for the Lord hath comforted his people, he has redeemed Jerusalem. The Lord has made bare his arm in the eyes of all the nations, and all the ends of the earth shall see the salvation of God. So this is a work of restoration then, the restoration of the house of Israel, and it is fulfillment of the prophecies of Isaiah. Then we go on to Jews believe in Jesus as their Messiah. Of course, this restoration gathering, this is the point of these scriptures, as I'm tying them together, try to paint a picture of this scenario. The Jews who have not believed, and all of the house of Israel who have fallen into apostasy, at some point they're going to believe the gospel, re-accept and be received into the covenants of the Lord again. And when they do that, through the agency of the Ephraimite Gentiles, then they're going to be gathered. But it's the arm of the Lord who starts the whole thing off. It's the servant of the Lord who comes along and is empowered of God to start this whole work of restoration of the house of Israel. And as we've seen elsewhere, it is the equivalent of the great and marvelous work of the Lord, the restoration of the house of Israel, but by scriptural definition. that the time cometh when the fullness of my gospel shall be preached unto them, and they shall believe in me that I am Jesus Christ, the Son of God, and shall pray unto the Father in my name. Then shall their watchmen lift up their voice, and with the voice together shall they sing, for they shall see eye to eye. Then will the Father gather them together again, and give unto them Jerusalem for the land of their inheritance. This is Jesus speaking now. Before, it was Jesus also, but in a different chapter, so he's basically repeating what he said before. And then shall they break forth into joy, sing together, ye waste places of Jerusalem, for the Father hath comforted his people, he hath redeemed Jerusalem. The Father has made bare his arm in the eyes of all the nations, and all the ends of the earth shall see the salvation of the Father, and the Father and I are one. Again, he's continuing to show how this fulfills the prophecies of Isaiah. It's really a pity that people pass over the prophecies of Isaiah because they're all about the end time. And we're there. If you don't think we're there, read more of Isaiah and you'll begin to see it. So there it is. The fullness of the gospel is preached to them, and they believe it. But we know from other scriptures that that doesn't happen until what? Until the Gentiles reject the very gospel that they have received, and it turns back to the Jews. But anciently, when the gospel is rejected by the Jews and turns to the Gentiles, as I've mentioned before, now that situation reverses itself. And we, as a whole, reject the fullness of the gospel, but some among us take it to them. Some of us repent of our Babylonish ways, take it to them, and they believe. Now the whole house of Israel, of course, converts to the gospel of Jesus Christ. And they are restored to his covenants, and they blossom. Next we have also from 3rd Nephi, God empowers Zion. 3rd Nephi 20, 36 through 37, referencing Isaiah 51 and 2. As I mentioned, when the servant awakes and arises, and God empowers him, then comes to pass Zion's awakening and arising. But that Zion consists of the house of Israel, not of the Latter-day Saints, not of the Gentiles, although we help them to establish that Zion. It says, and then shall be brought to pass that which is written, awake again, awake, and put on thy strength, O Zion, put on thy beautiful garments, O Jerusalem, the holy city. For henceforth there shall no more come unto thee the uncircumcised and the unclean. Shake thyself from the dust, arise, sit down, O Jerusalem, loose thyself from the bands about thy neck, O captive daughter of Zion. Now you may say city, well, which city is that? Well, of course, the old and new Jerusalems are those cities, but in the book of Isaiah there are two cities, and they're personified by Zion and Babylon. There are also two women, and one is the harlot Babylon, the other one is the virgin Zion. One goes into the dust, Babylon does, and Zion rises from the dust. It's a simultaneous event. So these people then are led out of captivity to lands of inheritance, from curse to blessing, as I mentioned before. Isaiah uses the Lord's arm, a metaphor, as a code name for his end-time servant who restores Israel, who initiates the whole end-time restoration of the house of Israel. It's a person from the east in relation to Palestine. The time frame is the end time when God's servant initiates the restoration of the house of Israel.